Hey guys, this is Mel, and I'm back to talk about Shadowhunters, episode 312, titled Original Sin, which premiered Monday, March 4th, 2019 on Freeform. I'm recording on the 5th because, again, I watched the episode on Netflix. So huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the episode already, please go do so first, and then come back and see what I have to say about the episode. My other video reminders are up on the screen. Take a moment to remind yourselves of those. I'm going to try to do this in 15 minutes because in 20 minutes, the new episode of The Flash is on, and I don't want to miss that. So let's hope I can do that. So let's start the clock, and let's begin with what happened in this episode. So timeline-wise, I believe it continues straight from the event of 311, only because Clary and Jonathan are still wearing the same thing, although they've cleaned up the blood from around their mouths. So that's why I think it continues forward, but Alec wakes up the next day for him, but they're on opposite sides of the world, so there's that. Huge episode reminder, though, is the fact that we get to see Paris. So there's that. I guess you can kind of say with the Original Sin title, it's going to mention some type of origin story and stuff, which I will get back to later on. But the first moment of the episode is Jonathan relocating the apartment to Paris with Clary inside. And storylines for the episode, I did pick up on 4, and there are 2 of them that are continuing from the previous episode. So first one being finding a family heirloom, second one being searching for Clary and Jonathan, third one removing the mark of Cain, and fourth one being Magnus's mortal moments. So there's that. With the first storyline, we do see Jonathan trying to find the Morning Star sword, which is supposed to be a family relic. He claims he's going to give it to Clary. She knows better, and he needs it for something. Apparently, it's a powerful weapon that was used beforehand by a certain Morgenstein, and no one wants that to fall in their hands again. But apparently it was sold to someone else, so there's that. Searching for Clary, though, we get Luke and Jace on the move with proof that they found some activity happening in Siberia. When they went there, they found evidence that Clary was there, so now they're really putting they're bringing in Alec and Magnus to help them try to track Clary, which they do to Paris. So there's that. For the third storyline with removing the mark of Cain, we do see Simon and Isabel going into the tunnels, and this is where Simon meets Cain, who is supposedly the oldest vampire, at least in New York, which he leads them to the Sealy Queen again, who does the removal ritual for Simon after he obtained a specific artifact from Cain to do the ritual. So there's that. Now, with Magnus's mortal moments, we do see it's Alec's day off, so he takes the time to train Magnus, which eventually leads them to do other things, but it has them deciding that it's too distracting, so Magnus is going to train elsewhere. We do see Magnus trying to jam-pack the day with a lot of events, which he hasn't done before because he's struggling with trying to make every moment of his mortal life now more precious, because beforehand he had all the time in the world to do things. Magnus suggests or estimates that he has about 40 or 50 years left for him. So I guess this mortality thing is a permanent thing for Magnus. There's no chance of his powers coming back or anything like that. So that's a shocker right there, or for him at least. So there's that. Last scene of the episode showed Jonathan back at the apartment having a breakdown about Clary's betrayal for him. Breakdown eventually has his eyes going black, possibly tapping into his demon-blooded powers, or possibly relocating the apartment once again since his location has been compromised. So there is that. Character-wise, though, we do see Isabel. In order to save Simon, she allows for him to bite her and drink from her. This could possibly risk her relapsing back into her vampire venom addiction that we saw in season 1, I believe. It was season 1, right? Yeah. So we do see that possible risk there. We do see the return of Melanorn again, and he expresses his interest in Izzy again, especially if she's still single. So there's that. With Jonathan, as I mentioned before, his eyes turn pitch black on his own command, very similar to the demons on Supernatural. We also have him claiming that he only wanted to hurt Valentine, not Clary and the others, although that was never the plan or how things turned out, which he brings into question for him. So there is that. He really tries to play up the fact that he wants to be good. He wants to prove to her that he can be trusted and be the support that she needs. Yada, yada, yada. We also meet a character named Merrick. He happens to be a demon shopkeeper who had the Morgan Star sword in his possession before he sold it to someone else. He was killed by Jonathan when he wouldn't give up who he gave it to. So there is that. With the runes, though, we do get, I guess, clarification that the rune, that it is a rune that is bonding Clary to Jonathan in regards to his resurrection. I don't know if it's specifically called a resurrection rune or not, but it is a rune. So there's that. We do see it still a little bit red on Jonathan, so it's still healing. With Claire, we don't really see it yet, so there's that. Is there any way to actually remove a specific rune, or do they have to go through a full de-runing like Mars had to do when she got exiled? So that's a question there. We also see the Aratsi rune, the healing rune, happening again when at the very end with Jace using it on Clary when she managed to stab herself to get the upper hand on Jonathan. So there's that. Tidbit wise, though, we do see the Queen again, and we do find out that she is loyal to Adam, and she is the one that created the mark to protect Cain against Lilith. We also do see Jonathan killing the French Shadowhunter in order to save Clary. And Jonathan thought it was invigorating when he made that kill. He believed that to be good of him, since it was to protect her in his eyes when it wasn't. So that's something that Clary is still mortified about. Also, we find out that Jonathan had actually met Sebastian Verloc in Paris shortly after he escaped from Edom, when he was completely burned and scarred and very disfigured, as he said. Well, despite his appearance, Sebastian gave Jonathan kindness and comfort. And then Jonathan returns it by doing such evil things to Sebastian when he looked up to the guy and wanted everything he had. Instead of learning from him, he wanted to take it all from him. So that's very depressing there. But moving on to the most shocking moment of the episode. I think for me, the part that really surprised me was the fact that not only was the vampire that Simon was looking for in the tunnels was Cain, but the fact that he also had the mark too. I guess you find out in the episode first that the other vampire had the mark of Cain as well, and then to find out that he is actually Cain, that was pretty surprising in itself. So I'd have to give it to that, because it's just something I just wasn't expecting. So there's that, which would be a part of my top 3 favorite moments. The first one being that we got the whole backstory behind Cain and the creation of his mark. Find out that Lilith had targeted Cain and able to get back at Adam for leaving her for Eve. Lilith had used her magic on the brothers to turn against each other, and the spell was broken once one brother had killed the other. In this case, Cain killed Abel. In his grief and with Abel's blood all over him, Lilith turned Cain into a vampire, and because it was Abel's blood, I guess he was a Shadowhunter, Cain became a Daylighter because of that Nephilim blood. So that was how he was turned into a vampire. But since Raphael said that the vampire in the tunnels was said to be the oldest vampire in New York, possibly ever, that leads to the question, like, is this how Lilith created the vampire species through Cain? Or was this just a special case of creating Cain, and then she created the other type, like the regular vampire species, sometime later? Or did Cain do it when he accidentally turned the first person? I don't know. But I really appreciate the backstory we got here. It's very sad, again, putting one brother against the other. Again, I know the tale of Cain and Abel through Supernatural's version, so it's very interesting to see how the Shadowhunters universe was able to turn that story and make it their own in this one as well. Definitely see similarities in it, but you definitely see the two brothers loving each other, and then the influence of darkness turning one brother against the other to the point of death, and then ultimately regretting that decision afterwards. So it was very interesting to see. It was very interesting for Simon to get that bit of information and learn a little bit more about the history of not only of the mark, but to know that someone else has experienced or is experienced what he is dealing with when it comes to the mark of Cain. So I thought that was a pretty good teaching moment right there as well. Another favorite moment has to be Alec and Magnus, just to see how they spend their time together, how we see them training together, just to see the two different types of her styles as well, and knowledge. But also what really stood out to me between these two was the Magnus expressing his views on what it means to be mortal, to be human now, comparing it how like Alec grew up like this. He knew like it hasn't changed for him, but for Magnus, he's lived his whole life as an immortal. So that switch is very daunting for him. It's quite an adjustment. Sure. And then Alec coming back saying, well, with moments, you can't pack everything in hoping to fit everything possible, because otherwise you're going to forget the moments. It's moments that you can savor and truly relish in them. Those are the ones you're going to remember years later. So that's what I really appreciate with that speech there. And just to see the support between the two was really great to see. And another last favorite I had was Clary being able to reunite with Jace, Alec, and Luke. She didn't really get much of a reunion between Alec and Luke, but the fact that they were there when she was free from Jonathan was great. But I really like the moment that she had with Jace, in front of the Eiffel Tower, obviously. But just to have reassurance to both of them that they are back with each other, that they're not hallucinating, that they're really alive and well in each other's arms, which is great to see. You definitely see, plus you got to see Jace smiling for the first time in a very long time, and just having him be reassured that she was still alive and it wasn't his fault in any way, then that was like fantastic to see. So I really like that. But moving on to top 3 peeve moments, I will have to say that one peeve is that I still can't tell with Jonathan. I mean, there's some aspects, like he's a really good charmer. He's very smooth with his words. And it's just like, there are times as well when he's interacting with Clary. If he wasn't her brother, I could see that he's clearly attracted to her. But since he is her brother, it's just very weird when I see those signs of attraction coming from him. It's just like the way he behaves is more like an obsessed stalker, and not like an overprotective brother. It's just this, I don't know. And then it's like there's that part of him that really unnerves me, but then there's another part of him when he claims like, oh, when he's explaining and saying like how we may have misunderstood his actions or his motives and stuff like that, and he's explaining, well, no, that wasn't what I was doing, and he's explaining it's just like, oh, like I can see that, yeah. And then it has me questioning everything about him. So I'm peeved because I'm on the fence about him. So there's that. And another peeve was a little small, though. It was the fact that during Simon's moment after doing the ritual and Isabel's feeding him his blood, it really bugged me that the Seelys were just standing around, not helping whatsoever, not offering to tap a vein for Simon, just doing the drops of blood here and there from all of them so that Izzy wouldn't have to be bitten and have venom in her system. Instead, they're just standing and watching, or sitting around and watching. It's just like, really? No help whatsoever. So that was annoying there. So there's that. But moving on to what we'll remember most in this episode. Like I mentioned before, the title itself, Original Sin, I think it's referring to our introduction to Cain and his whole history about how the vampire race was originally created from him, or at least the original sin of him killing his brother. I mean, he is the father of murder. So there is that reference there. But random questions very quickly. In regards to Cain, since he is the first daylighter, wouldn't any vampire that Cain be turned into a daylighter like him? Or is it specifically because he was the one that had Nephilim blood, that's why he's a daylighter? Because I would assume that if you're a mutated version of a species, anyone you turn afterwards would be the same mutation that you grew to be. It wasn't like, oh, you start from scratch when you get turned. So I was kind of wondering, like, if that was possible, if like a daylighter can turn a vampire and they become a daylighter, or if it's specifically no, if he turns a vampire and they drink Nephilim blood, then that's why they become a daylighter, not because of his bite specifically. So if that's the case, then maybe that's why the vampire race, like Raphael, could stem from Cain. If not, then I'm wondering why there aren't more like Simon out there. But that's a very complex question there. Another question is, in regards to Jonathan's escape at the very end, is his ability to run really fast that resembles a vampire's run, is that because of his demon-blooded quality, or is that because he put a rune in place and activated, or like how was he able to escape so quickly? So that's a question there. But moving on to predictions, very quickly, based off the promo for 313, it looks like we get Jace and Clary dealing with not only being together, but also dealing with the fact that Jonathan is torturing himself, which Clary gets the brood of it, since they are linked. Also, we see Luke suggesting to Maya to challenge Russell for Alpha because he believes she could be a better Alpha for the pack. We also see Isabel getting attacked by a blonde vampire, probably Heidi. It also sees Luke almost kissing Maris. We also see Izzy and Alec dealing with the downworlder torture issue, and they're conflicted when they share it with Maris, and since she says to do one thing while they think they should be doing another. So there's that type of conflict there. But based off the synopsis for the episode, it reads that Jordan and the Praetor try to track down Heidi, while the Shadowhunters try to locate Jonathan. Meanwhile, Luke looks to Maris for help, and Isabel gets a possible lead on information on what is really going on in the Clave prisons. So that's exciting there. We do see the return of Jordan Kyle as well. Also, this episode is directed by Paul Wesley, which I think is very cool because this week's episode of Legacies was also directed by him, so both of his episodes will be airing within a week of each other. So I think that's pretty exciting there. There's the timer as well, but otherwise, that is pretty much all I have to say. I will say this though, if you happen to watch my video and you haven't already checked this YouTube reaction out, go check out Abnormally Adam. His reactions were just fantastic. I will admit that I did watch it before I recorded this because I just couldn't wait. I needed to see his reactions to all the ships that were happening in this episode, and he did not disappoint. So it's very refreshing to get his reaction. So go check that out as well for that. But otherwise, guys, that's pretty much it for this episode. What do you guys think of it? What do you guys like about it? What do you think will happen next? Let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your thoughts, theories, and opinions about what you think will happen. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page. The link for that is down below. I read blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all that good stuff. All found in one place. Check it out. I am behind. I am fully aware of that. I hope to get back into it very soon. But be on the lookout for that. WordPress account, link for that is down below. Everything I post online is connected to WordPress. More organized, more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. I do have to update that one too. So be patient for that. Otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your patience. My next video might cover the next two. I have to wait and see how my schedule goes in my own personal life. But otherwise, guys, thanks again. I hope you come back to see what to say about the next episode. But until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week wherever you are. I got 3 minutes until the flash is on, so take care. Bye.